Happy February, everyone. We are back. Now, I have something that I wish to discuss, and it will probably end up being a rant, but disclaimer right up top, I am not an artist. So it may be that I have no dog in this fight, but I feel like as a creative person, it's really important to support other creative people because generally speaking, creative industries are so trampled upon and looked down on, and frankly, I get sick of it. So instead, I thought I would just dive in like a freight train and do a little bit of research on this whole AI versus artist discourse. Now, anyone who is perpetually on Twitter like me, you will already know about this probably because it has been like super viral for weeks and weeks and it is still ongoing. Super interesting things have been happening in the last couple of weeks though, which is what's prompted me to make this video because I really want to talk about some of the developments that have happened. But for anyone who doesn't know, let me take you back to, I think the first time I saw anything about AI image generation was probably mid-December, maybe early December. It started off with, frankly, it started off on my newsfeed anyway with a bunch of like corporate dude bros being like, oh my God, look what I can do now thanks to these certain companies using this certain software and using this certain data set. And they were able to generate images that either look like photos or digital paintings or traditional paintings or, you know, like you name it, they could generate it. And all of them were absolutely thrilled about this. And then people started doing some digging and people started thinking, well, hang on a minute. That looks an awful lot like my painting that I've done manually with my hands as a trained artist. So they started doing some digging. And now, fast forward to the end of January, the discourse has turned into lawsuits. The discourse has turned into copyright infringement. There is a huge discussion going on about copyright law in the UK, the US, wherever. There is a massive outcry from the artist community. And frankly, so the fucking should be. Because it turns out that images like this, here's some examples, you will notice likenesses to an awful lot of very well-known faces. Now, generally speaking, those well-known faces, for example, literally Marilyn Monroe, are protected under copyright, especially people like Marilyn Monroe. Their estates tend to copyright or protect their likeness, so you cannot use it without express permission of the estate. So you can already see, even with just some example images, the problems. Here's a little bit of foreshadowing, which as an editor, we love to see. So, where does AI get these images? Well, there is, and I'm going to warn you now, I'm going to say this wrong. There is a particular thing that exists on the internet. It is called Lion 5B. I'm going to go with Lion, and I might be completely wrong about the pronunciation, but either way, it is a dataset. Now, for anyone who doesn't know, a dataset is a literal amalgamation of things that exist on a network or an internet or whatever that are all collected together and stored sort of collectively and indexed in a particular way. Datasets are great for so many things. So Leon 5B is the dataset that Stability AI, Midjourney, and DeviantArt use to train their AI to collect their images. Now, what this means is that Leon 5B is basically scouring the internet looking for images, photos, paintings, whatever you want to call them, right? Anything that is an image that is available on the internet, whether it's in news articles, on blogs, on photography portfolios, on stock websites, that's another big one. Anything that constitutes an image can be seen by Leon 5B, can be collected by Leon 5B, and becomes part of the information that AI programs like Stability and Midjourney and DeviantArt use to produce their images. The big tagline when this first became mainstream news was that AI art was going to make art cheaper and more accessible, and something that everyone could do just by typing in a few simple text prompts and then having AI generate and render an image for them after a couple of hours. There are two big problems with this. First and foremost, if all you've done is type into a text box, you're not creating anything, which is their big argument. Look at what I've made. Second of all, you completely undo that particular argument when AI generated images such as this one are being sold for $1,000. What? That's not like what you doing? $1,000. So not only are you fraudulently selling this particular image for $1,000, which is meant to be cheap and accessible now, right? It's meant to be that anyone can generate their own art now, regardless of artistic talent or, dare I say it, taste from some of the AI images I've seen. So that is Lay on 5B. It scrapes the internet, dredges the billions and billions and billions of images available on the internet. It collects them together. It indexes them. It allows people with no morals, frankly, to generate images, claim their art, sell them for a profit. There was also a story, I will try and find a screenshot here, of a guy who used AI to generate a children's book, and he thought that it was fantastic, and he created it in one night and then immediately put it up on Amazon for sale the next day. Needless to say, it's a terrible book with terrible images. The quality of the images are absolutely shocking. They really are appalling. I will try and put some examples here. AI does a few things really, really well, and it does a few things really badly. Teeth and fingers are two of the main things that it does really badly, but it doesn't matter to the dude bros who are pro AI, because they're generating images of women in bikinis, or in the case of one particular streamer who partook in some deepfake pornography of two other popular influencers, you are creating NSFW content with people's likenesses. Now, obviously, that I can't even begin. I can't even begin to tell you how disturbing it is that there are people, probably men in their 40s, who make their wives miserable, who are sitting in their dude bro offices with their Chad friends late at night, messing about with AI, and think, you know what we should do? We should put a description of a coworker, or a description of his wife, or a description of his sister, or, you know, a description of a well-known celebrity, or a description of someone that we've seen on the street or in a bar that we think is hot, into this, generate some pornographic content of it. And the problem with that is, unless you look at the teeth and the fingers, or once AI gets clever enough to fix the way it generates hands and mouths, you will not be able to tell the difference between that and a legitimate photo of someone. I don't think I need to explain the possible ramifications and the huge amount of damage that could be done from stuff like that. You're generating pornographic content of someone without their consent on the internet. If I was a lawmaker, I would definitely be arguing the point that AI-generated NSFW content should 100% hold the same punishments as revenge porn and upskirting and everything like that. It is an absolutely disgusting use of what could be a super useful resource. But that is not the only potential privacy breach, because not only do we have people's likenesses being used in pornographic material, but we also have this particularly lovely article in which an artist discovered their private medical photos that their doctor had taken used in AI image generation. That's disgusting. It's disgusting. Like, there's literally no other word for it. Like, nothing is safe with AI generated images. These companies use these platforms and they say on all their websites that it's research labs, but what they're actually doing is using their money to build software that can create a perfect likeness of just about anyone on the planet who has access to the internet. And if you're wondering what my source is, the CEO and co-founder of Stability AI, he says, how was the dataset built? He was asked in an interview. It's just a big scrape of the internet. We use the open datasets that are published and train across those. And I'd say that's something that 100% of people do. We weren't picky. Did you seek consent from living artists or work still under copyright? No. He goes on to explain that, it would be an awful lot of work and is therefore not possible to scroll through millions and millions of images that your dataset has collected in order to train your AI and contact each individual copyright holder and request consent from them to use their copyrighted material. Just because something is difficult to do doesn't mean that you don't have to do it. These people, these artists whose work you're scraping have worked hard. That is hours and hours of work per image, whether it's digitally produced in things like Procreate or Photoshop or whatever, whether it's edited photography, whether it's straight up traditional painting or any other medium you like. An artist has spent hours thinking of the concept, making that concept a reality, working really hard to market themselves on the internet, to find the right audience and the right niche for their artwork. You've come along, your platform has been trained to look at, which is just copy. It's been told to copy images on the internet so that people with no artistic talent and no right to claim themselves as artists can do exactly that. The idea of making art accessible, those words alone on principle are really good. Let's make art accessible. What about, making sure that museums are using underappreciated artists, artists of color, artists of different religions, artists of different orientations or, ethnicities, whatever you want, right? Let's make art accessible that way. Let's fund school art programs properly. Let's make sure that kids who show artistic talent are supported and encouraged to follow their artistic talent and to not leave it by the wayside because it's not a fucking STEM degree or whatever. Like, the world needs artists and it definitely needs art. But what it doesn't need is overprivileged upper middle class guys in suits being like, I'm an artist. And what makes me really laugh is all these people who are saying that AI brings art to people who maybe can't afford to be traditional artists. AI was developed by incredibly privileged, well-off people with literal connection to hedge fund management, who have worked for hedge funds, who have worked for very well-funded research labs all over the world, who have worked for NASA, who have been to places like Oxford University or Cambridge. And you think, with your beamer on finance, that what has happened is that philanthropically they have developed something to allow you to hang your own art in your house, when actually what they've done is they've developed software that has allowed them to collect information and likeness on just about everyone, which is exactly why stories like this now exist. The fact that that story exists just weeks after this hitting the mainstream media is preposterous. The first thing people did was try to make it NSFW. And the companies, Stability, Midjourney, I'm focusing mostly on Stability and Midjourney because they are like the ones that I hear talked about most. And they are also the ones that are getting sued. So that's fun. They are scraping the internet and people are using them for nefarious purposes, and it's going to get someone into trouble very, very shortly, because eventually, once AI figures out that not everyone has 97 teeth and 8 fingers on one hand, it's going to become very difficult to tell the difference between a real photo of a real person and a fake one. Deepfake technology is incredibly advanced now. It is getting really, really, really difficult to tell one from the other. The problem with that is that it's one of those things that can literally only be used for evil. Like, that sounds dramatic, but it's true. There's no need for deepfake technology or AI anything unless it's being used for evil. Like, I'm sorry, but there just isn't. These companies are taking the possibility of real work and real opportunities and real exposure away from working artists who are now struggling as a result, because platforms like DeviantArt and ArtStation were flooded with AI images when it became a thing that literally anyone could do. So that is where we're up to in the AI versus artists battle. I'm 100% on the side of the artists. I think it's absolutely disgusting that people with money and influence are able to basically do whatever they want and just run roughshod over people who just want to make an honest living and go about their life quietly. And I think capitalism and corporate greed is absolutely disgusting. Not a fan. Not a fan at all. Anyway, thanks for listening to me rant. This video required rather a lot of research, but I actually really enjoyed it, and I will definitely be doing an update for people who aren't necessarily on Twitter and who might not want to actually be watching all of this shit unfold in real time, because I understand that it could be quite draining. In the meantime, if you enjoyed this video, please hit like and subscribe. It really helps me out. Hit that ring bell button to be notified every time I upload a new video, which is the first Sunday of every month at 12 p.m. GMT, and I will see you next month. I promise there is an Iceland video coming. I know I've been hinting at this for quite a while, but there is an Iceland video coming. It's a whole thing. I'll explain it when we get to it. Hopefully that'll be March's video. I'm really hoping that it will be March's video. And in the meantime, I will see you guys next month. Bye.